Well, good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, my lovely students. Right now it's afternoon. It's about 2 in the afternoon for me, and it is looking a little more November-y out. Kind of gray, gunmetal gray sky. That's the wind whipping around the building. So it's getting more wintry looking, man. Hallelujah. So we're doing the next part of this World War II presentation. And now we're going to get into the war itself, because you're working on the main causes, as in what sparked this whole thing. Now we're actually going to start fighting. Hallelujah. But before we get to that, I have to talk about the essential questions for this presentation. One is, what is meant by total war? What was the Schlieffen Plan? And what is meant by stalemate? So these are going to be the 3 guiding questions in this presentation, and they're all important for your next test. Okay, total war. Total war. Wow, total war. And let me ask you this. Do you feel like we're fighting a total war right now against terrorism? Well, a lot of you might say yes, but in fact, we're not even close to a total war when it comes to terrorism. In a total war, every civilian is impacted dramatically. For instance, taxes have not been raised, there's not been rationing of food, there haven't been blackouts, there hasn't been control over civil rights, like what could be shown, what can be said. The government hasn't become like a dictatorship. All these things happen in a total war. None of that stuff has happened with the war on terrorism, which is one of the reasons why sometimes it doesn't seem like we're fighting at all. You know, it seems like it's this thing going on halfway around the world that doesn't impact us much. Now, World War I wasn't like that. Here's what I want you to understand. Here's a good word. The word is mobilization. When a country is in a total war, it mobilizes all of its resources to help in the war effort. Now, if you look at the word mobilization, the root word of that is mobile, which means movement. In this case, we're talking about movement of all resources. Now, I love these 2 propaganda pictures. Propaganda just means using information to fight the war as well. That's another example of total war. I love these 2 propaganda photographs or posters from World War I. The first one shows this hen, this French hen, getting the job done, man. Just laying eggs left and right. So all the food goes to the war effort, and the civilians get to eat what's left, and obviously farms have to become very productive. This is one from the United States. It says, every girl polling for victory, victory girls. United War Work Campaign. One thing that happened in the United States is when the soldiers, the male soldiers, went off to fight the war, females took their place in factories and produced things. So this would be an example of how the war impacted everyone. This woman might have been a housewife or a daughter or a student. But once World War I started, she became a factory worker, producing weapons for the war. All right, now let's talk about this amazing plan called the Schlieffen Plan. Now, as I look at that word, it's obviously the German plan of attack. And the Germans are determined to win this thing. Remember, the Central Powers are totally surrounded by the Allies. They know they're going to have to fight on 2 fronts. So what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to take care of one enemy at a time. And they look at France as the easier target because France is a smaller country, less people. They look at Russia as somebody that's really going to be hard to defeat. When it comes to the United Kingdom is going to be this major naval power, but they don't envision invading the United Kingdom. It's more like they want to roach France, then take on Russia, and just kind of fend off the United Kingdom the whole time. So their plan of attack is something called the Schlieffen Plan. Now, I want everybody to pardon me here. I used to coach football at Big One in high school, and there's a play in football that used to be very popular, particularly in college football, called the option play, and people still kind of run it. And I want to, like I said, apologize to everyone for this sports analogy, but there's a lot of comparisons between sports and going to war. The team in blue here is on offense, team in red is on defense. Here's the quarterback right here. This is this big fullback. It's a massive threat to the red team. So what the quarterback's going to do is he's going to step down the line and fake a handoff to this big, muscular, fat fullback. The guys on the red team are going to make sure that they mass to stop the fullback, and then the quarterback and the halfback are going to take off around the end. Now, if this guy comes up to tackle the quarterback, he pitches it back to the halfback who runs for a touchdown. That is the quarterback's option, the option play. Now, the Schlieffen Plan is very similar to this football play from high school football. Check this out. Here's the Schlieffen Plan right here. Here in red's Germany. Here in green is France. This country right here is called Belgium. This country is called Luxembourg. This is Holland or the Netherlands. And over here is Britain. Now, Germany is going to try to fake the French out. This is like the fullback plunging through the line. If these soldiers march into France, France will say, whoa. They'll run up here and defend the French frontier. That's this blue line right here. Now, if they can get enough French soldiers sucked in here to stop this incursion, then the stronger German army will sweep through Holland and Belgium and right down into Paris. It's the von Schlieffen Plan. Now, there's a key in this Schlieffen Plan. The key is to do it quickly before Britain comes ashore and helps shore up the French defenses. I love this image right here. It's a race against the clock. In other words, the only way the German plan is going to work is if they can defeat France rapidly. Now, going back, the way to get there is to march through Belgium and Holland. This is flat ground. This is wooded and rolling. It's easier to move on this ground up here. The situation, though, is that Belgium and England have a treaty, a peace treaty. And if Belgium is invaded by the Germans, the British are going to declare war on Germany. The Germans realize this. They're willing to take the risk because they believe that they can be through Belgium and down into Paris quickly enough that the British won't have an impact. So the whole thing is a race against the clock. Defense. Defense. I know, I'm cheesy cheer. What can I say? Here's what the Germans did not anticipate. Here's what no one anticipated about World War I. World War I is going to be a war in which the defensive weapons are going to be far superior to the offensive weapons. So if you are some soldiers that have this fortified position with this machine gun, good luck trying to knock out that position. I mean, good luck. You're probably not going to have much luck knocking out that position. And as you saw in my little simulation, these guys right here could take on a lot of soldiers. Now, in World War II, both sides are going to use tanks and planes to overcome defensive position. Okay, so the German plan, the Schlieffen Plan, is to go through Belgium, go down through France, destroy France quickly before the British could come. Didn't work that way. Did not work that way. And once again, the Germans got hung up in Belgium thanks to defensive positions. There were much fewer Belgians than Germans, but because machine guns tended to make defensive positions invulnerable, the Germans were in trouble, slowed them down dramatically. Something they thought was just going to take a couple days took weeks. And in that time, the British were able to come ashore and shore up the French defenses. Now, the stalemate is sometimes called the Western Front. Right down here in the very bottom is a place called Basel, which is on the Swiss border. This is Switzerland right here. Then this heavy dark line, here's Germany, goes up here, takes a little jog this way, goes all the way out to the North Sea. The vast majority of it is in France itself. This line would not change much for the next 4 years. That's why it's called a stalemate. You have these massive rows of trenches, and neither side really has any idea how to overcome a trench. And that becomes the story in World War I, is both sides keep sending these poor guys out into no man's land to get slaughtered, and the other side tries the same thing. Okay, that's the beginning of the war and how it devolved into a stalemate. We'll talk more about the war in the next presentation.